Okay, so welcome to this webinar where we'll be talking about navigating the holidays after loss. And this can be the loss of your baby. A lot of you are bereaved parents, but it could be loss of babies of your patients. It could be loss of friends or family members, or just that the holiday season's really hard for some people. And so we're going to give you some tips and tools to help you, go through this season a little bit more gracefully. I'm going to have my co-host, Betsy Winter. I'm going to have her introduce herself first.
Yeah. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Betsy Winter, and I am a grief guide, heart activist, and somatic artist who, after the loss of my daughter Eliza in 2015, unearthed my purpose in life of helping others find meaning after loss and helping people gain a deeper sense of wholeness within themselves after their loss. And the methodologies I use is grief support, mindfulness, and conscious movement. And I've had the honor of working with Kiley and Return to Zero Hope since 2018, doing virtual support groups and helping lead retreats across the nation. And it is an honor to be here today sharing this important topic with each of you. So thanks for showing up.
Thanks, Betsy. It's such an honor to work with you. So I'm glad that we could do this together, bring this important topic out to the world. So my name's Kiley Hanisch, and my son Norbert was stillborn in 2005. And I also, like Betsy, believe that my loss really helped bring about my purpose in life. And that is also to help people find meaning and purpose after their losses and find healing. And so we made the film Return to Zero, which came out in 2014. And this was a feature film based on our experience with Norbert. And it's just kind of how it impacts a couple, a family, and their community. And then I also founded Return to Zero Hope, which is a nonprofit that it started out by doing retreats, healing retreats for bereaved moms, but now we have so many great resources, not only for grieving parents, but for family and friends, as well as providers. So today, our goal is to really empower you to be an active participant in the holiday season, right? So that we're not only just surviving and feeling like the holidays are controlling us and it's just a horrible, horrible time. That possibly with these tools that we're going to talk about today, that you can feel somewhat in control of certain things that are controllable during this season, and really to take power and initiative over what you want it to look like. I would suggest, and I wrote this in the comments, but if you have a journal and something to write with, we're gonna do a little bit of writing, or it could just be a piece of paper and you transfer it to a journal, or just keep it on the piece of paper. So I might give you a minute to go run and get that, and then we'll move forward. Okay, so the first thing we're going to discuss is giving yourself permission to do what feels right. So we're going to first just talk about the fact that grief during the holidays can be more intense than other times, because especially if you're closer to your loss, like if this is your first year and you had all these plans for what the holidays would look like having your baby here, you know, it's going to be really, really hard. And we acknowledge that, and we've been there. And so knowing that, I think, is good, because it kind of lowers our expectations and helps us feel like we're not crazy and we're not alone in what we're feeling. You know, we're reminded of what we've lost, you know, that our babies, that our loved ones are not here with us. And we're really empty, and we're dreading, like, what are these holidays going to look like? And it's probably started with Halloween, right? And so I just want you to know that this is all really normal. Whatever you're feeling is normal. But our goal is to really give you permission to honor your loved ones in a way that feels right to you. You know, that you're doing things on your own time according to your own intuition. And there's really no right way to do this. You know, there isn't like, oh, I have to do something really big and meaningful. You can do something small and meaningful, and you can just do nothing at all. You can just have a normal day. Like maybe you just want to opt out of holidays, and that's totally okay. So just know that wherever you are, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're wanting to do or not do is right for you right now. And then next is acknowledging that a lot of our anxiety during this time comes from pressure that we put on ourselves and expectations that we have of others. So this is where I want you to pull out your journal or a piece of paper and something to write with. And I'm just going to ask you a few questions. And I want you to take a few minutes to jot down just some thoughts. You could always come back to it. You can leave a space and come back to it and look at it in more depth later. But the first thing is, what are you most fearful of as we enter into this holiday season? What are you most fearful of? Okay, and then the next question is, what are your triggers? So thinking about people, places, certain days, whether that means days of the month, days of the week, certain times. Think about what has been triggering to you. Okay, and then the next question I want you to think about is, what are your hopes for the day? And this could be hopes for yourself, the way you're feeling, hopes for the way that you want the day to go. Okay, and then the last question I have is a little bit tied into the previous question, is what are your expectations for the holidays? And this could be like, what are you expecting from other people? And then after identifying your expectations, ask yourself the question, are they realistic? Okay, and if you need more time, you can go back later and journal about that. Okay, I'm going to pass this to Betsy now.
Okay. Now that you've taken some time to reflect on these questions, the next thing we want to talk about is accepting your feelings. Grief can bring up all sorts of inexplicable, seemingly irrational feelings and thoughts. But for those of us with broken hearts, they are very real feelings. And whatever you've identified as your fears, your triggers, your expectations, I want to ask you to consider, is it possible to just acknowledge those things without judgment? In my experience, feelings are merely messengers. They're not inherently good or bad. They're just providing each of us with really important information about how we can navigate a certain situation. And so the information it provides us with is, am I feeling constricted in this time? Am I feeling anxious? Does this particular person make me feel angry? Do I start to feel really hot and uncomfortable in my body? Are there situations that make you feel calm? We can identify all of these feelings, but without judgment. Again, they're not inherently good or bad, they just are. And part of empowering ourselves to not just survive the holidays is to have more knowledge about ourselves in situations. So when we allow ourselves to just acknowledge these feelings, accept our feelings without judgment, without attachment, and without a need to explain why we're feeling the way we're feeling, it allows those feelings and emotions to flow through you versus take control over you. And really, our mission is, how do we empower bereaved parents to survive in their loss? And we do this by not letting things take control over us. And I also want to acknowledge that the holidays can still be joyful times. Maybe it brings up memories from your own childhood or special occasions you've had with your family. And I want to just say that it is okay in grief to feel moments of joy, to laugh for a brief second, to feel a glimpse of happiness again. That does not mean that we are not still hurting. It does not mean we are over our loss. And it doesn't mean that we're no longer connected to our loved one. Oftentimes, I think we attach our pain and our hurt to our connection with our babies or anyone else who's passed on. And it doesn't need to be that way. To have these moments of joy, laughter, and happiness again, it just means you're human and riding the emotional roller coaster of this journey that we are on, those of us with our broken hearts. And so The next thing I want to talk to you about, in addition to accepting your feelings, another way we begin to empower ourselves is through setting your intentions. So, knowledge has power. And these steps that we're providing are just simple ways that we can regulate ourselves and our emotions and our fragile heart during the holidays. So we don't want to just blindly step into a situation or to this time of year that we already know can be triggering without having clarity around what you want, what you need during this time. Maybe you need to go full out and decorate the house and be surrounded by family and volunteer your time and make elaborate meals. Or maybe you need to, like Kylie said, opt out, binge watch every season of Friends. You could pretend it's summertime. Whatever you need to do, you can do it with clarity in the intention behind it. And for some of us, going on autopilot may be exactly what we need to do, where we're just somewhat numbed out to the seasons and the occasion, and that's totally fine. Again, we're just bringing mindfulness into this. That mindfulness is empowering us so we don't get blindsided by the emotions that are most likely going to come up during this time. So maybe take a minute to also write in your journal some immediate thoughts about your intentions for the holidays. Be clear. What do you want? What do you want it to look like? How do you want it to feel? What do you need? And when we do this, we naturally will feel more connected to ourselves because we're tuned in to our needs. We naturally connect to the present moment, which allows us to regulate our emotions, which allows us to respond in a more from an empowered place. And it actually allows us to connect more with our loved ones and with, for many of us, our babies during this time. And I definitely encourage you to come back to that place on the paper in your journal and really take some time to think about what you need and want. And then Kylie will talk about making a plan, which is a way to put all that into action for you.
So making a plan is a really good way to give yourself a sense of control when things feel completely out of control, right? When we experience loss, it is out of our control, and we feel powerless. And so in this instance, developing a plan is to develop control over things that are controllable. Some things are not, and some things are. And so this will help you, again, feel empowered as you go through this holiday season. I do want to add in here that anticipation of holidays and special days can often be worse than the actual day itself. It can just wipe us out, the like anxiety and anticipation over it. So just know that if you're feeling off, if you're feeling achy, and that's kind of grief in your body, just saying like, hey, don't forget about me. You know, I'm here and you need to slow down a little bit. Like that's kind of how I take it. Is if I'm not feeling great, it's like my body's just like, slow down. So I would say not right now, but you know, when you have some time, whether it's by yourself, and or with your partner, brainstorm what might feel right for you these holidays coming up. You know, I mean, Thanksgiving's very closely approaching. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, like whatever December holidays you celebrate, like they're coming up. So what, again, based on your intention of the day and the season, it's okay, with the intention, what tangible things do I want to see or not see during this time? I would encourage you to not host holidays, especially during the first year when you're just not at your best. I know right now during COVID, it's that may be a blessing that we can't get together with people, right? That it gives you an excuse um, to opt out. Like, and it's okay to opt out, even if other people are getting together. If that's what feels right to you, you need to do that for yourself. Because if you go and you're a disaster, like it's not going to do anybody any good. But I will say, if you do go somewhere or you do something, always have an exit plan, because you don't know how you're going to feel at that moment on that day. And so an exit plan gives you a plan and permission to leave the situation that is just not serving you. So just looking at like, okay, for a plan, what does that look like? So for some people, it might be very structured. They may have certain things planned out, a routine and a timeline can provide a sense of comfort. But for other people, they might just want to disconnect. And as Betsy mentioned, like binge watch a season of a show. Maybe you want, you can, I know we can't go and like I would say, go somewhere warm where it doesn't feel like the holidays, but I know that that's really hard right now. But, you could just, whatever feels unholiday, if that's what you need, you can do that. And also, like, regarding a timeline, that you don't necessarily need to plan every moment of the day or every hour of the day, but just have like a general plan, like, okay, for the morning, I want to do this. And for the afternoon, I want to do this. And then the evening. So just having some structure might be helpful. And then I will always say this, like, give yourself permission to change course. This is where the exit plan comes in. But if you're not with other people and if you're just you and your partner, and what you're doing doesn't feel right, then by all means, say like, heck, like I'm going to throw this plan out, and that's okay too. Just really checking in with yourself during the day, during the days, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just really connecting to yourself and feeling what you're feeling and using those feelings as messengers to you and guiding you. And then looking at like self-care. So I have this picture of this woman in a bath there. And taking a bath is a great thing to do, right? You can I go in there and I put aromatherapy and I put my Epsom salts and I listen to a meditation. I don't do it a ton, but if I just need to really escape, it's a nice thing to do. But I will say this time needs to be filled with extra self-care. And what that means is what do you need to do to take care of you? What do you need to do that makes you feel fulfilled? And that may be doing a yoga class. It may, I don't think we can go to the spa, but maybe there's a massage therapist who's doing massages that can come to your house. Maybe you can go on a beautiful hike. Maybe it's meditating. Maybe it's eating a good meal. And I just know with COVID again, our options are limited, but we can still do things that take care of ourselves that are a little bit more internal or personal. And meditation is great. There's a lot of meditation apps that you can listen to. Just connecting to your breath is very powerful. exercise can be helpful to like move your body, right? And I think just even if it's like, I don't really want to go on a walk, but I'm going to force myself to go. And if I'm not doing so good after 10 minutes, I'm going to turn around and come home. But, pushing yourself a little bit to get some fresh air, get some sun if possible. And I'd encourage you, like, as I said in the beginning, is like, you're going to need more self-care during this time. So making self-care a daily practice. And I think for myself, and I know for other people, scheduling in self-care is going to be key, because if you just say like, oh, maybe I'll do this, and it's hard to hold ourselves accountable to do things, especially when we're not feeling great, right? We're feeling depressed or anxious or sad, and it's just easy to let these things slide because it takes a little bit of effort. But just knowing that scheduling some things in, and that will make you feel better. And then seeking out support. So, this can be a good and a bad thing, the support, your family and friends, right? So having people around you isn't always great, but it's important that if you're going to have people around you, that you trust them and they understand what you're going through. You need to feel safe with these people knowing where you are on your worst days, that they're not going to try to judge you or fix you, and expressing to them ahead of time, like, what do you need from them? So I would encourage you in your journal, just write this question down and you can come back to it later, but what do you need from others during this season? And how can you ask for what you need? Because maybe we need people to remember our loved ones or our babies who are not here with us, but they may not know that unless they've been through it, and they're uncomfortable and they don't know what to do. And you may need to guide them a little bit in asking for what you need or how you want to include your loved ones in these holidays. And so I think that this, for me, is a really hard thing to do, because sometimes I don't even know what I need. But that's why it's important to go back and like to think about this ahead of time, to think about your intentions for the day. What do you want the day or days to feel like? What do you need to feel supported? And allowing yourself time to explore this ahead of time will help you understand what you need and then be able to communicate it. And it could be that you need to communicate with others that you just need to be alone these holidays, or whatever it is that you need. Or it's you're going to only celebrate with certain people because that's all you can handle right now, right? I think the holidays are emotional enough, and then to add grief and loss on top of it, and adding in COVID and this crazy year that we're going through, there's just a lot for us to process, a lot of layers. And so just remember this, both of us will say this again, is there's nothing right or wrong about what you choose. And you just have to really take time to go inside and think about how you want this to look and how you want this time to feel. So I'm going to hand this off to Betsy now, who's going to talk about creating rituals during the holidays.
So, rituals create meaning, and they give us a sense of purpose and a sense of connection. So they're really these beautiful opportunities for us to drop into that very intimate heart space that is wide open when we are raw in our vulnerability. And when we think about it, the root of most holidays is really about purpose and meaning and love and heart space and connection. We've lost sight of that with how culturally some holidays have evolved. But when we're deep in our grief, it really is an opportunity to return to the root of the holidays. And when we are deep in our grief, things that once held meaning may no longer hold meaning. They may feel unimportant. So buying the perfect gift or decorating the house in just such a way, or preparing this elaborate meal, or whatever those traditions might have been, they may feel really superficial right now, and they may no longer feel important, and that's okay. Kylie and I want nothing more than to give you permission to fully be you during this time, and setting boundaries and making decisions that support you and your heart during this time. So be okay with letting go of old traditions, creating space for these new meaningful rituals that honor your baby, that nurture your heart, and help you feel connected. And the holidays can provide you that opportunity to create new customs or rituals that maybe you choose to do for years to come. And obviously this may change, and like everything, everything is that's the one thing we know. Change is the one truth. Everything is in a constant state of change. So we can be okay with these rituals changing. Maybe they'll be something we do for the next 30 years. And then also just knowing that it's never too late to create new rituals. So if that feels like pressure right now, this idea of creating a ritual to honor your loved one, or to really acknowledge that heart space right now during the holidays, that's okay too. There's always going to be that opportunity to create new rituals. But just know that when we, with intention, create rituals, we bring more meaning into our life. We begin to rediscover that sense of purpose that feels like good, like feels wholesome and true. And it really is a beautiful way to keep the connections alive with those that we love and have lost. And finally, recognizing the gift. So what does this mean? When we are in that space, our heart space, heart ripped wide open because of our loss, we tap into this unyielding spring from where our profound love for our loved ones come from. And there is so much pain in that, but there is also so much beauty in that. And during the holidays, as we enter into more of that sacred space of honoring, we can also take a moment, if it feels right to us, to recognize the gifts of those that we love and have lost, offering gratitude for what you maybe have learned from your baby, from your experience, or from your loved one. The impact that your loved one or baby has had on the rest of the world through their existence. And I think it's important to note that a life has meaning no matter how short or how long it was. It was their life. And we can honor that life and recognize all that that life gave to each of us and to um, the world. Of course, this doesn't take away from the aching desire to have our babies or our loved ones here with us right now in this moment. That will never fade. But the impact that our loved ones have had on us also never fades. And so it can be helpful to take a moment to reflect on that, to reflect on the gifts that have come out of this life. Again, no matter how short or how long, the life has meaning. And for me personally, after the loss of my daughter, Eliza, I created a list called Gifts from Eliza. And it was all the lessons that she taught me during her brief but extremely powerful life. So that's a suggestion as a way that you can bring in that really recognizing your unyielding love. And you can always create a gratitude list to balance, right? There's the both and. We will always have heartache, and we can also hold space for that love, that deep love. And when we do that, when we create a gratitude list, it helps balance it out. So I would encourage you, if it feels right to you, to take some time in that sacred space, light a candle, sit down with your journal, pour a cup of tea, whatever it is, go in nature, and just take a moment to reflect on the gifts that your loved one, that your baby has given you through their perhaps brief, but extremely powerful and meaningful life. We have some suggestions that I believe can also be found on the website of ways that you can honor and memorialize your loved one. You can do these at any point in time, but again, to bring that meaning and that sense of purpose and to create maybe new rituals during the holidays that have always been loaded typically with tradition, you can begin to create your new traditions. And these are just some ideas. For us and our family, my daughter has a stocking. She gets a note from each of her siblings. And that's simple, but that is how we choose to just integrate and honor her during this time. And it helps us continue to feel that connection.
Yeah, so a lot of these are on our website, but I will also send out the slide deck to all of you so you can have it. You don't have to write it down right now. And you can just pick and choose what feels right to you. And if nothing feels right now, that's okay too, you know? I mean, I would say, like, for me during the holidays, someone gave me an ornament, which I cherish so much, with Norbert's name on it, but then that's kind of the only thing we do right now. But there's lots of other things we do at other times, you know, like, I mean, like I'm wearing right now, this is Norbert's necklace that I got after he died. We've done other things like planting a tree, or you know, like if I make a donation, I don't necessarily do it at the holidays. I might do it at a different time. So, but then there are other ways of, like, how do you connect to your baby? And it could be like through meditation, through music, through nature. Also, I mean, this is a whole nother topic, and there's a webinar on this called Recognizing and Receiving Signs from Your Baby. But, you know, like, how does your baby come to you? Norbert comes to me as a white butterfly, and Eliza comes as a hummingbird to Betsy. And so, like, notice, like, you know, if you're on a walk, do you see the animal or insect? Or do you find like a heart-shaped rock, or, you know, whatever it is that your baby's trying to communicate with you? And that if you kind of open yourself up, they will they will come to you. You just have to, it's maybe not in traditional ways that we know. And then, okay, so here's our contact information, which I will email to all of you. So you don't need to write this down. I'm gonna stop sharing right now and just open it up to any questions that you all may have. You can use the chat box. I know that there's, this is just for the people who are watching live, but you can use the chat box to ask your questions, and Betsy and I will share our experience, share our knowledge from what we've learned with working with other parents.
While people might be gathering their questions or typing it in, I wanted to say one thing about your first holiday experience post loss. One of the women in one of the virtual support groups offered this really beautiful insight about we only experience the holidays the first year out from our loved ones lost one time. So there's only ever going to be the first time we experience the holidays post loss. And then we begin to build on that. So that anticipation that Kylie talked about, that sometimes the anticipation is worse than the actual day or days themselves. That if we think about once, we just get through this, we just get through this one day, and that's going to be the only time I ever have to go through it for the first time. And I will be a little bit more aware, a little bit more empowered, a little bit more in a different place the next time I have to visit a holiday. And maybe that provides some comfort, maybe it doesn't. But I wanted to share that because for me personally, I find that helpful.
I'm muted. So Kaylin, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So you're asking, my biggest fear is not knowing how to respond when asked the question, when are you going to have kids, and not knowing what my response will be when that comes. Those close to me know about my loss, but not all of my extended family members do. Do you have any tips on navigating that? Yeah, I have thoughts. Betsy probably has thoughts. I mean, I'll share what I think, and Betsy, you can join me. Is first of all, I think two things are coming to mind. Number one is rehearse an answer. So that you're not, the not knowing what your response will be, you will have a response. So you will have time ahead of time to plan what your response is going to be. My second thought is possibly sending an email out ahead of time to these people that, whether you're going to see them or not, whoever needs to know, so you don't have to tell them, because telling someone in person is really, really hard. It just brings up extra emotion. So can you craft an email on your own time, whether it's something you send out, or maybe you ask your parents to send out for you, or your partner, explaining like what's happened, and then also including in there, however much you want to share, is like, what do you need from them? Because they don't know how to respond. They're going to feel uncomfortable, and they're going to say something stupid or something not at all because they don't know what to do. And I would, like, one idea is like direct them, on our website, we have a family and friends section. Direct them there, because there's like a whole do's and don'ts of what to say and what not to say. They need guidance. People need to be educated. Unfortunately, but they do. Our culture is really uncomfortable with grief. So I don't know. Betsy, do you have anything to add?
I think those are excellent suggestions, and I completely agree. And I think I just want to acknowledge that there's power in just you saying this, that you're saying, my biggest fear is this. And that already begins to diffuse the stress around the potential of that situation arising. And I really agree with Kylie. I think having a parent or your partner or a really good friend communicate ahead of time to your family if you're ready for that, can be hugely supportive, and doesn't have to come from you if you're not comfortable with that. And then you can, for me personally, I feel like having people know the story versus not know the story, both of them create awkward situations in a way you're not, that's going to happen no matter what. And it's just choosing, what kind of awkward situation do you want to be in? Do you want them to know, or do you not want them to know? And if they don't know, then like Kylie said, rehearsing what your response is going to be and beginning to prepare yourself internally for those questions coming up, because if you're sensing that, they most likely will. But if we communicate ahead of time, those questions will not come up. You might get other questions, but that particular question will probably not come up. Does that help you, Kaylin? I'm really sorry for your loss, wherever you are in the journey.
And I think it also, this is just in general, it makes a difference whether you have children or no children, right? Like, I know for me, Norbert was my first, so it's different. But Betsy, you had a son already. And so that, you sometimes can't check out if you have another child. So Kaylin, this is your first pregnancy. Yeah, I mean, so you can run away if you want. That's totally okay. We went to Las Vegas. Well, I tried to do Thanksgiving. I hosted it. It was a disaster. And then for Christmas, we went to Las Vegas because I just couldn't. It was just too much. I just want to pretend that like Christmas wasn't happening. I would not go to Las Vegas right now, though. Christy, do you have any questions? Or Kaylin, do you have any other questions?
Got both of us here, and we really are more than happy to answer any questions, even if they're not specific to the holidays.
Okay, well, I'm gonna stop the recording right now. Oh, here. Well, here's another question. Hi, Christy. Yeah, we're happy to. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording because I feel like we're gonna travel into